What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another War Thunder review. Today we're taking a look at the brand new FireFly F Mk. This was just recently added in the 1.49 patch as part of the British tech tree. I'm always happy to see a new airplane added to the game. It doesn't matter which tech tree it happens to be. And certainly the British could use a couple more aircraft. Now, before we get right into the match, I should mention that the airplane you're about to see is fully upgraded. I didn't buy any of the modifications with Golden Eagles. I did all the grinding in arcade because that's the fastest way to grind modifications in my opinion. Get the most RP per minute, at least for me. You may find realistic to be a little bit faster, but this is what works for me. My first impressions of the FireFly Mk. were that of fairly disappointing. Honestly, the word that first came to mind was underwhelming. The FireFly Mk. Is one of those aircraft that it's not entirely clear what its purpose really is within War Thunder. You know, it's one thing to take this out in actual combat, and another thing to put it in a video game and expect people to use it in a particular manner. As for the debate as to whether this is a turn fighter, an energy fighter, a boom and zoomer, a ground attacker, well, it really kind of depends on the situation. The FireFly, quite frankly, reminds me of Russian aircraft. Not all Russian aircraft, but there's a certain percentage of Russian aircraft that I immediately think of that they aren't the best boom and zoomers. They're not the best energy fighters. Not the best turn fighters. But they're kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. That's kind of what this feels like. It's maneuverable enough. You're not going to outturn a whole lot. It doesn't climb particularly well. Its energy retention, whether it's stock or fully upgraded, is horrendous. And then you have the armament. You have 4 Hispano cannons, which I love that. You put 4 Hispanos on anything and I'll love it. But then they go and just add a piddly amount of ammunition. 240 rounds really won't last you very long in a War Thunder match, at least in realistic battles or for that simulator battles, if you're into that kind of thing. 240 rounds of ammunition will only last you a couple of engagements. What I tend to do is I use the FireFly as a low to medium altitude fighter, both energy fighter and boom and zoom. I don't turn fight a whole lot unless it's something that I know I can turn fight. As for ground attack, the 240 rounds do not last long enough to really do much. You can go down there and ground pound some AAA and artillery and that kind of stuff with the Hispanos, but 240 rounds goes awfully quickly. You're probably going to get anywhere from 5 to 10 ground kills, maybe more if you get some good shots, lucky quick shots. I've gotten a lot of sparks in the last couple of days with the Hispanos, which are usually pretty reliable, but not for me recently. Outside of the Hispanos, you do have some bomb and rocket options. You can strap on 2 250-pound bombs, or 2 500-pound bombs, or 2 1,000-pound bombs. Now, the issue with using the bombs is you don't have a bombing reticle. So if you're one of those guys who's not adept to using your fighter as a bomber, because not very many people are, because not very many people use fighters as bombers, but you're going to have some issues lining up those shots. And since the bombs drop simultaneously, you're only going to get one shot at a tank or a destroyer or what have you. So you have to be right on the money. As for rockets, you do have 8 76mm rockets. They're a nice little option. But once the rockets are gone, you're done. You have to return to base, or I suppose you could bluff your way through a battle. But odds are, as people become more knowledgeable about the FireFly, they'll know that you only have 240 rounds, and if they saw you attacking AAA and artillery, then they know you're either completely out of ammunition or you're running on only a couple of rounds. And with that knowledge, they won't perceive you as much of a threat. So bluffing may not be a tactic that'll work very often. Maybe only with new pilots who aren't knowledgeable about the FireFly. In this first match, I just took down a PBJ, and also that P-63 is about to come down. I don't know what happened in that cloud. He activated stealth mode and disappeared there for a split second, so I couldn't see him in the clouds when I went in for the head-on. Well, the P-47 is coming in for a head-on. With only 52 rounds, I'm not going to fully commit to this head-on. P-47 is extremely dangerous on head-on. See, I just got out there. As soon as I see the tracers, I go evasive. I don't want to take any more rounds in the face than I absolutely need to. Down to 12 rounds, I decided to head back to base because I'm out of ammo for all intents and purposes. Don't have any bombs or rockets, so time to RTB. And on my way back to base, I happened to come across this fella, a P-63 King Cobra, just waiting to pick me off. I don't normally land at this runway, so I wasn't really expecting this guy over here. It's actually not a bad idea to go over here and try to poach any bombers that are dropping in. But I know he's just above me. I'm just waiting for him to show up again. This is where the relative maneuverability of the FireFly does come in handy. When I notice he's dropping in, I decided to pitch up, try to get guns on him, but at the same time avoid his shots. He never fired his weapons because he saw that I was coming in for a head-on. With 12 rounds, even if I did get a good shot, it probably wasn't going to be enough. 12 rounds tends to go pretty quickly with four spin-out cannons. With the American team dropping like flies, this guy is pretty much on his own at this point. The P-63, he doesn't have a whole lot of options. Instead of your usual boom and zoom attempts, he's decided to boom and kind of zoom for distance and not altitude. What proceeds to happen is he just gets enough distance, he turns around, and comes back in for a head-on pass. This would happen a number of times. He would come around for a head-on pass, and I would dodge his attempt. And eventually I just got tired of it, so I decided to end the match once and for all. Since he's the last guy alive on his team, I decided to go in for the intentional ram. I made multiple attempts to get my team to come and help me with this guy. But after about 3 or 4 minutes of waiting, nobody actually came. A couple guys returned to base to get more ammo, but no one actually attempted to come help me. They just rather strafe AAA and artillery, so if they didn't want to come and get the kill, then that's just on them. I wasn't going to wait much longer. I gave them plenty of opportunities to come help me out. In this next match, we're up against the Germans. And as you can tell by the altitude, I'm using a similar tactic of staying low, just using this to fight anybody who happens to get themselves in a low altitude situation, such as this HS-129, also known as the Duck. Put a couple of rounds into this guy. It wasn't a very good angle of approach there, but I still managed to get some hits into him. That'll slow him down. And you can see the amount of speed that you lose when you maneuver. Here you can see those awesome looking flaps that they use on the FireFly. Those are the Youngman retractable flaps. They're beautiful. They're quite different from the regular flaps that are on most airplanes in that they actually detach from the wing and come down on what it looks like a hinge of some sort. It's a really cool looking design, and it really sets the FireFly, at least from a visual perspective, apart from everything else. It's really a unique looking design. I'm trying to just use short bursts. I won't not use a whole lot of ammo because, like I said, this only got 240 rounds, and I used better than half of it on that one target. The Germans fell apart pretty quickly in this team. This is one of the few American and British teams that I've been able to get good matches from. It's funny watching this 109 pursue the P40 because neither of them have a whole lot of energy to begin with. They stall one another out, leaving the 109 rather vulnerable in this spot. Snipe his pilot out with those 4 Hispanos. You don't need a whole lot of ammo to snipe a pilot. And that was, or at least for my participation in this match, that was it. Just 2 kills, but it was a pretty straightforward match. Next up, we have a match on landing for Hokkaido, which is a map you'll get a lot flying this aircraft. Now, as you'll notice, I do have rockets attached. I'm going to go use those on some destroyers. I got a couple of guys here in my way. P-63 first comes in the head-on, take him out. Next up, BTD, little packet loss there, makes my plane a little funky. Next up is BTD doing a little ground pound, take him out. And then it's off to the destroyers. Going for naval targets is always a bit of a gamble because of all the flak that's involved in it. All these destroyers have a lot of flak on board, and they're going to be opening up any second now. You can see it. There you go. Getting a face full of flak. I have 8 rockets. Supposedly it only takes 2 rockets to take down the destroyer, but from my experience it takes 4. As you'll see, The first one, I actually hit my rocket key twice, so it fires 4 rockets. So that takes it out, no problem. So I decided to try the 2-rocket method. Fired 2 rockets. In my opinion, both rockets hit, and it didn't kill it. So the idea of just 2 rockets on the destroyer seems to be busted. Between the flak and those 2 head-ons, my plane's taking a beating. My right wing's badly damaged. My engine is pink, but I'm not out of the fight just yet. Come in, finish off the destroyer with the last 2 rockets, and it's time to head back to base. Unfortunately, this will be the end of the match because my team just got wiped out. I don't know what happened, but by the time I get back to the base, there was someone there waiting for me, and I got killed. So it was a bit of a bummer to end the match that way, but that kind of thing happens. Now I know I went over the debate as to whether or not this is a ground attack or a turn fighter, boom and zoomer, energy fighter, all that kind of stuff for realistic battles. I want to propose a different option for this plane, and that is to not use it in realistic battles at all. Instead, I'm going to suggest you use this in arcade, because to me this is an arcade plane. With only 240 rounds of ammunition, the FireFly Mk.V just doesn't have the ability to stay in a worth-on a realistic battle match for very long. It just doesn't have the ammo capacity for it. So what I suggest is using it in arcade, because you get the automatic mid-air reload, so you can just use this all day long. And with 4 Hispanos, you're going to shoot down everything, all within a nice quick little burst. I did all the grinding for the upgrades there in arcade battles, and I can attest it's a very good little plane for arcade. But I would still say use it similar to how I mentioned in realistic battles, in that you use it as a low to mid altitude fighter. It takes too long to get up to high altitude, and even if you do spend all that time getting up there, if you use it as a boom and zoomer, you're going to end up having a difficult time getting back up there to altitude, because it just doesn't have very good energy retention. Next up, we have the FireFly FR Mk.V. Now, I love the look of this plane with the invasion stripes. You can pack more rockets. It's got more ammunition. It's definitely a bigger threat in the air. Over flight performance, it's very similar to the F Mk.V. Although I do believe it's actually slightly worse in performance. It turns worse. It doesn't climb very well. It's a bit of a pig in the air. But it does have a lot of ammo. 640 rounds of ammo. This is what the FireFly should be packing, not 240. But still, it's really the flight performance that will hamper this aircraft. Now, as you can see, I do have 16 rockets on board. I'm going to go try and destroy some cargo ships, because frankly there's nothing else I can do at this level. I can't climb. Almost everything from the Japanese fleet is going to be above me. All the Zeros and Key 43s, Key 61s, all those guys are going to be above me. And just like in the last clip, it's dangerous going after cargo ships and destroyers, as you'll see here. As I get in closer to the cargo ship, start taking flak, fire a couple rockets, miss, only gonna hit, and look at there, I'm on fire. Just great. So much for using this as a ground attacker. Now the Mk.V, unlike the Mk.I, does have options for carrying both bombs and rockets at the same time. With the Mk.I, you can only carry either bombs or rockets, not both at the same time. So with the ability to carry both types of ordnances, you do have some versatility there for what kind of things you're going to be able to kill. Damn cargo ships. One of the roles you could use the FireFly for, as far as fighters, is as a bomber protector. American and British teams are filled with bombers and various other ground attackers. So odds are you're going to have a lot of friendlies down low, and you might as well try to keep them alive. And as in this game, we're up against the Germans, and they're all going to be diving on these guys. So my role here is just to keep these guys alive as best I can. Fortunately, this Focke-Wulf has a lot of speed. He came out of the clouds. He's got a lot of speed built up. I just can't catch him. So we're going to wait for him to turn around and go in for a head-on pass. There's a Focke-Wulf 198.5, which is a very deadly aircraft. Got lots of cannons, but the FireFly is pretty damn deadly too. Anyway, to wrap this up, I would say keep this as a low to medium altitude fighter. Don't turn fight very many planes because you're not going to win. The FireFly, either the Mark 1 or the Mark 5, they're very slow in the turn. They bleed energy. They have horrible energy retention when you try to climb. And I highly recommend trying these planes in arcade, believe it or not. With 640 rounds in arcade, you're going to do pretty well with the Mark 5. The Mark 1 is definitely best suited in arcade because of the ability to reload your ammunition in the midair. And with 4 cannons on both of the 2 FireFly versions that are in the game right now, you're going to absolutely wreck people. Normally it's Focke-Wulfs that are wrecking people because of they have 4 cannons on some of the models. Well, you have 4 cannons here, and you're going to do pretty damn well with this thing. Anyway, guys, I thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please click that thumbs up button. And of course, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Take care, guys.